Hey, how's it going everyone? This is Kurohibi and today I'll be starting my first speed paint video featuring Freiren from Sousou no Freiren. So here I'm starting with the line art using a brush that resembles a pencil rather than the hard round brushes that I usually use. I find that it helps create a gentler look to the piece and it also helps speed up the line process since you don't need to be as precise in terms of line control. And especially because this piece was supposed to help me learn how to edit these speed paints, so basically it's a little test run. So you can see here that I've already created a sketch underneath, and that's because sometimes I'll just play around on the canvas and I'll end up making something that I unexpectedly like and just want to develop further. Usually with these types of situations, I don't see a point of recording these processes until I've accidentally created something and it's a bit too late to record it. So in terms of lining, I think the most important part is the ability to adjust the line weight while also preserving the essence of the sketch without changing it up too much. While with a thinner line, it does help make the piece look neater. I think it's also important to pile on the weight in certain areas to make it look a bit more analog. And especially because I'm working digitally, I can create a new layer and work on it and then erase the unwanted parts like the hair that you just saw there. And I think it's important to note that even though this is supposed to be a quick piece, I don't try to rush the process. It's important to take your time and create a form that you like and then slowly work on it so you don't lose out on details that can make or break a piece. And that's important. Attention to the details is important, but so is having the patience to treat these details with the attention that they deserve. So with another advantage that I find with this brush is that I can basically get a new style out of it. Especially when making like these sketchy linings or shadings that would add quite a bit of dimension to the line art without it feeling too rigid, like how it would with the hard round brushes. I think that with the hard brushes, it feels a bit more, well, for a lack of a better term, more rigid, and you have to be a lot more precise and accurate with it. And while that is not a bad thing, I think that it kind of interferes with some of the styles that are supposed to be more relaxing, such as this one over here. So after finishing the line art, I put on a masking layer at the bottom in preparation for the coloring stage, because I think that does make the process a bit more easier. And here I'll start filling in the base colors. And I know this is not the most efficient way to fill in the base colors. There are more better ways of doing that. And maybe you can say, oh, you can just go to Paint Tool Sai, it'll be more faster. But personally for me, I just simply cannot get used to the program to be effective at it. I believe me, I tried so goddamn hard. So I think the colors that you start with can be just as important because sometimes the colors that you initially start with can be just simply be the wrong color. So sometimes I would just alter them a little bit so they can service the piece a little better. Just like how I would end up changing the color of the yellow parts of the outfit. Now I know that some of you might be confused as to why I chose like Avatar blue for the skin, but I have a very good reason for it, right? There's a good reason for it. So, with Freiren skin being a very Caucasian bright skin tone, it's actually very close to being white, like full on white. So, you can already imagine what it's like to be trying to fill in an almost white color while, not missing any spots onto a fully white base. So, I just chose a color that is more easily noticeable against white and then just fill the skin in like how you would, just fill in the skin color like how you would with the bucket tool. It's just simply more easier that way instead of having to just second guess yourself which part have I not filled in and which part is already filled in. I would just end up wasting my time. So this is the best alternative that I can do. So at this point, I would start rendering the base colors because everything has already been filled in. So nothing much to do in terms of like adding in other colors. So in this point, so it's basically you just start rendering. So with my habit of rendering white, is that I would use a brightly saturated blue instead of gray. So I feel that it gives off a better vibrance and it helps the white pop out a little better. Like I'm not really trying for an ultra rendered style, nothing too realistic or nothing too fancy. I'm just going for a more simple pseudo cell shading kind of style, nothing too heavy. I'm not going for, because I'm trying to save time, so this is also more fun as well because like with a normal rendering you would take a little bit more time, there's a bit more thought involved in it, and with just the cell shading I think it just you're just having fun with it. So and then I would just start blocking in the occlusion shadows, which are the darker parts of the shadows. So I would sometimes alter the colors after like just a little bit if they feel a bit off to me. And sometimes when you progress on a piece and the flaws just come up more and more, that is normal. That is a normal thing that happens. Because, like, when you're adding in colors, it actually brings in a new perspective to your piece, and that's not a bad thing. So, all you need to do is just adjust what you can, with what you have. And especially when you're working digitally, I think that becomes a bit more easier. So next up is the shading. So I would start by putting on a multiply layer and then fill it in with the color that I would want, then erasing the parts that the light would hit. So in this case, I'm just doing a preliminary experiment to see which parts would work best to show off the lighting and free rent silhouette. And I would also change the color of the shadow to match with the background so it doesn't look like a completely different element pasted onto like some sort of magazine photo. And then after I decided on the lighting angle, I would just basically restart and make a cleaner lighting using cleaner brush strokes. And here you would see that I would be erasing out the lighting and then filling back in the shadows on some parts, like keeping in mind the shape and form of everything and how the light would just change with that. It's just part of the process and not everything has to be done in one go. So if you're like stuck on something and if you feel like you're taking too long on something, just remember to take your time with these things and don't rush it. And it's at this point where I decided to try something new that I've never done before, and that is subsurface scattering on skin. And I think it came out pretty good on this. Basically, I just put an overlay layer on top and colored on some red colors to simulate the effect of light glowing through like semi-translucent skin. So you'd see I would be focusing on the ears, especially because they are the more thinner parts on the human body, and that's where you would notice the subsurface scattering a bit more. So I think this is a very good lesson for those who try to, go from point A to point B without making changes. In this case, I thought it would be simple for the backgrounds because I thought I can just simply paint a forest background and then alter like the colors and lighting to match. But then I got lazy. And also because I'm really bad at drawing backgrounds, so the next best thing I decided that is the best course of action to do, and one of the things that I'm pretty good at is to use a photo that I took and turn it into a background instead. So some color adjustments to make the colors pop like it's in an anime, and then I'll use a lens blur filter to create the depth of field effect, and it'll be mostly done. So just adding on some adjustments like specular highlights and you know some strands of hair, and then highlighting the gems. And then after everything is done, I would just zoom out a bit to check if everything is okay. I think that's also important because like if you zoom in way too much, you would like miss the whole picture. So sometimes I think it's important to just zoom out to look at the entire photo. Sorry, the entire piece to check that everything is like okay in terms of like color and that you didn't miss anything. So I also decided to put down some color onto the line art so that it tames down the harshness of just simple pure black lining. I find that it really helps add to the piece, and I think that you can already see the difference that it makes as I'm progressing with the coloring of the line art. So for the last thing that I would do for this piece is post-processing to tie everything together. So my thought process behind this was that I wanted to make this look like a photo or like a memory from the past, like how like how Himmel would have envisioned Freiren to look like. So I decided to create like a chromatic aberration effect, which can create like a dreamy feel to the piece. And then adding on a lens flare does help sell everything together and ties everything into a neat little bow. So I think that looks pretty nice. What do you guys think? And that is it for this speed paint. I think I managed to make this a lot faster than I usually would, and it still came out great. What do you guys think of it? So thank you guys for watching this first speed paint that I've ever made. I I don't upload art as often as I should nowadays, but I do hope you can follow me on my art profile so you can get to see the pieces that I made when it comes out. So have a good rest of your day, stay safe, and I'll be seeing you guys next time. Bye!